Hey everyone, hope you all do well. My name is PJ and I've got two special guests here today. From the Codemasters DiRT Rally team, we've got John Armstrong, who also works as a game designer at Codemasters, and he's co-driver Phil Hall from the RAF Reserves. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, fantastic. Really well. Really well.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, you guys have had a mad week, I have to say, and it's been really fun following the Junior WRC on my side. For those who don't know, my name is PJ. I'm the social media manager for the DiRT Rally games. So whenever we're sharing stuff about DiRT Rally on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, that kind of thing, I'm the one that's there trying to keep you all informed and excited about it. And John does similar on the development side, where he's there ensuring DiRT Rally games are as tip-top as possible to make sure that we all have such a great driving experience. But somebody that you DiRT fans may not know so well is Phil Hall here, who is John's co-driver during the Junior WRC. But Phil, you might as well give us a bit of background on who you are and let people know.
Hi everyone, I'm Phil. I'm co-driving for John this year in the Junior WRC. My background is I've been co-driving at a WRC level for about 5 years now. I've actually done Croatia was my 26th start in the World Rally Championship. I actually started working with John during lockdown, during COVID, because we tried to develop a way to train together using DiRT Rally 2.0 and via Discord, which you might have seen some of the videos we put online, and it went really well. And then, yeah, just got more and more involved with the Codemasters team, and then this opportunity came around to work together as a bigger team, in the Junior World Championship, which is just a fantastic opportunity. Great to work with John, and as you'll know, or you'll find out shortly, we had quite a good weekend last week.
Yeah, I remember seeing last year the two of you guys. John put a video on his YouTube. I'll link it somewhere, either in a card in the top of the screen or in the description down below. But essentially, you guys treated one of the Scotland stages in DiRT Rally 2.0 like a real rally. So I think you guys did a recce, and then you did the full on run where you're calling the notes in real time, and John's driving pretty quick, as he always does. And speaking of driving, we get to the actual real rally, because we're here to talk about Rally Croatia, or Croatia Rally as it's officially known. That happened last week in the Junior WRC, where you guys obviously had a great result. We've been singing and dancing about it ever since. But there's a lot of interesting things that happen in over the course of a rally week that not a lot of people will know, especially if they only come from a video game side. And it's a bit of a learning experience for me too, because I've not essentially been involved in real motorsport as much as I've been involved in virtual motorsport. So it was the Monday or the Tuesday, I believe. You guys started with a training day at the start of the Junior WRC season, isn't that right, John?
Yeah, at the start of every Junior WRC season, they have a training day, which is a chance for us to get to know the M Sport Poland team, all the mechanics and personnel that help organize the team throughout the championship and the events. We get to have a look at the rally car and learn about that, and how we need to operate that on event and certain aspects that we have to look out for. We had like a talk from a representative of Pirelli Motorsport on the tires that we're going to be using, which is really useful. And we also had media training as well, which was fantastic too. So it's lots of little things that you learn during the training day, but most of all, it's just nice to get to know your competitors and everyone that you're going to be working with during the season. And it was just a nice way to start the year again. Obviously, I'd been at the same sort of training day the previous year. So some of the stuff I'd already learned, but yeah, you just keep picking up new things each year. So yeah, it was really, really good.
Yeah, because that's the important thing. It's not only the Junior WRC is not only a competition and a sporting activity, but it's also a development program for young drivers like yourself, and co-drivers too, of course. But it's a case of building the skills so that you guys can then later on, depending on how things fare, go up to WRC2, go up to WRC3, or go up to Big Boy WRC, as I like to call it, up at the top level of off-roading motorsport. But then after that, you guys do a thing called a Recce, which is a reconnaissance run. So that's something that players won't necessarily know about unless they follow real rally to a high degree, because the notes in the game are already done, they're already there, you just have to drive the stages. But am I right in thinking that a recce is essentially you guys go out, you drive the stages in a road car fairly slowly, standard road pace, and you're writing the notes as you go down. You're like, this corner's a 3 and this corner's a 4. Is that right, Phil?
Yeah, that's right. And what people don't necessarily recognize, and John will probably agree with me on this, is that recce days can actually be 2 of the toughest days of the whole rally. Like they're really big because you have to do the entire rally route twice over those 2 days, which is 3 or sometimes 4 days worth of rallying. Now, yeah, you do it at a road pace, and you do it in a relatively road car. It has some modifications. We have distance measuring equipment and GPS in there, so we know where we're going. And sometimes people have like headsets to cancel the noise down, because even in the road car, like gravel roads and stuff, it can be quite noisy. But yeah, you have to cover quite big mileages. It's long days. You usually start at 5 or 6 in the morning, and you don't get done until 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. And that's before you start going over the videos, because we record all the stages as well, for reference again, and to go back and do it again via video. But the basic premise is you're only allowed to pass over each competitive stage twice in a road car, and that there are speed limits on it. You have a tracker in the car to make sure that you're doing it safely and at an appropriate speed. And as we drive through it, John will tell me what he wants me to say, basically. But it's a collaborative effort, because we build this pace note system together, and sometimes he asks me, what do you think of this bit, or what do you think of that? But generally, it's what John wants to hear when he's arriving at that corner, flat out, and also even down to the detail of like what order he wants to hear stuff in. So say for example, John uses a pace note system with numbers in it, but we also have some modifiers in it, which is like, don't cuts, or flats, or cuts, for example, or slippy, or gravel, or long, is the corner long, and what order does he want to hear that in order of priority to him. And we get down into that sort of level of detail on the recce. Once we've done all of the stages, I have it all written down in a notebook, which is sort of a specialized notebook. You can reorder the pages in, because you don't always necessarily recce the stages in the order you're going to compete in. We then go back, and then in the evening we'll go over all of the videos, and I'll read them back, or sometimes in John's case he'll take the notes away, because he can read my shorthand, and go through them and make any small changes he wants to make, like for example in the order of what stuff's said. And I just touched on there, I write everything down in shorthand, because if I was to write everything down as you'd say it, so left spelt left, for example, or Titans spelt Titans, we'd be there all week, and I'd never be able to keep up with even driving at road speeds. You have it in the game where there is actually, there's shorthand. If you have the prompts come up on the screen, it's in a form of shorthand. So I write it down in a very similar way to that on the page, and John can read my shorthand, because I've taught him. He's fluent in Phil handwriting, and yeah, so we that's the way, and I have to learn to read that back to him, and that's what I'll ultimately do when we arrive at the stage. I'll be telling him where to go, basically reading his words back to him as we go over the stage at full speed.
So, because Croatia Rally was a new rally to the WRC calendar, is it kind of you're starting from scratch? It's not like, for example, like Corsica or something like that, where you have the stages been run in previous years, and you can see onboards on YouTube, or you've already got notes that you can just revise and that kind of thing. So I guess for Croatia Rally it was extra tough, because you're essentially writing notes from scratch. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. There was no real reference from previous years. Okay, some of the stages were used in local rallies, like one of the stages on Sunday, which I call the mountain stage. It goes up one side of the mountain and down the other. They use that quite a lot on some of the local rallies. So there's definitely some videos that I was studying and, trying to just get a grasp of what the rally was going to be about and what I was going to face. But, nothing can really prepare you for whenever you actually get into a car and drive the road for the first time. Everything looks totally different. So for me, it's very important that I just go into the recce and make my notes how I see the road. And then obviously on the second pass, Phil will read them back to me, and I'll make changes to the first pass where I've created notes. And then, yeah, we'll do further refinements on the video that I've recorded from Recce. So basically, I set up a video just to the right-hand side of me whenever I'm going through Recce, so I can see how much steering input I'm doing on each corner, and just try to refine things as much as I can, because really Recce and pace notes is probably the most important part of a rally week, because if you don't have a good Recce and you don't have good pace notes, then you can't commit fully to the corners. It's more dangerous, and also you're going to be slower overall. So it's very important that you have a very good Recce. And I think we've done a good job in Croatia. It was definitely stressful because I've been away from that level of international rallying for such a long time. But I think all the effort that we put in before the rally and during the Recce really paid off then during the event.
Yeah, that's the thing with highly competitive sports as well, is that it's not just the performing on the day, it's also the hard work you guys do beforehand. And another aspect of that, which gets into things that people may actually know about from the game now, is after the Recce, you then had the Shakedown. And the Shakedown is essentially a warm-up run for you guys, isn't it, on a short stage? And we'll get into the main rally straight after this, but I remember seeing a clip on YouTube. I think it was Thursday or Friday. I think Phil's already knowing what I'm going to talk about, but there's a clip of that a fan recorded on track, because there was no official footage of the Shakedown, and it's completely quiet on the road, and then next thing you see the dirt rally car coming in sideways, full lock, full throttle, and I'm like, it's a front wheel drive car. How do you even do that? It's crazy. But how did that? Because John, you were the guy behind the wheel. How did that come about, and what were the techniques you kind of used to correct it?
Yeah, that moment, I would call that a moment, because it was it was not how I would want to have went round that corner. It was too sideways, and throughout Croatia Rally, there was a lot of dirt and gravel on the road, and whenever you've got a slick tarmac tire, the last thing you want to be driving on is any sort of loose surface. So on that particular corner, there was a lot of gravel and dirt that had been dragged on to sort of the racing line from all the passes of Shakedown of all the big WRC cars and the R5s. So the corner had just become very dirty, and I was starting to, I think I was my third run through Shakedown, so I was starting to commit more and more and just come into that corner, and I think it was a bit too fast, and the left rear tire had got onto the looser part of the gravel. So then the car just snapped sideways, and at that point you have to not stand on the brakes, because if you stand on the brakes, you're just going to lock all your wheels up, and you're not going to save the moment. So really, at that point, you have to counter steer, try and balance the counter steer on a road that's barely narrow, or barely wide enough to drive down without going sideways. So it's just all about trying to balance that, be a little bit on the left foot brake, but also keep on the throttle, because what a lot of people don't know is in a front wheel drive car, whenever you go sideways, if you keep on the throttle, that throttle input will eventually drag the front car in the direction that you're steering. So yeah, it happens very quickly, and I think I've got good car control in situations like that, but obviously it wasn't how I wanted to attack that corner, but it made a pretty good clip and gif afterwards. So
it was amazing when I saw it. It was totally wild. But yeah, I think you're right. Just from my experience of just playing Dirt Rally 2.0, and I'm not the best in front wheel drive cars, I'll admit that, but yeah, it's the kind of thing where the front tires do all the work and they pull the car straight as much as possible, isn't it? And you like to get grip through the turn, you can't be on the throttle too much, because that's trying to pull the car forward instead of sideways. And I guess that was the learning there, because it was interesting, because when I shared that clip and a couple of people were chatting in a Discord server, and they were telling me that it looked like they didn't even know it was a front-wheel drive car until you had that snap back into control at the very end. You're like, oh, that's a front-wheel drive. That's the front-wheel drive righting itself again. Because they thought, some were thinking, oh, is this an all-wheel drive car? Is he just got too much going on the diff in the back and it's just flying out and that kind of thing? But it was pretty wild. And if anybody hasn't seen it, I don't have any official footage I can put into this video, but the fan video, I'll put a link to it in a card up at the top of the screen or in the description down below, because I think it was a pretty cool thing. We shared it on Twitter before the week as well. It was pretty wild, and hopefully you guys didn't have as many wild moments in the rally itself. So the rally itself then started on the Friday, and am I right in thinking the running order is essentially the Big Boy WRC first, and then it's WRC2, WRC3, and then the juniors. So I'm guessing there's both positives and negatives to the road conditions from that. Like, the positive that I can think of, because it's a tarmac rally, is a lot of rubber is going to be laid down from all the cars. But the negative then is that, like you were saying about the shakedown, is that the road surface gets worse and worse, because all those cars, they're all clipping the corners to get the maximum speed through, and they're just kicking up dirt, and they're kicking up leaves, and they're kicking up everything to make it fairly tough. Because I saw some pictures and it looked like picture one day and it was a totally clean road, picture the next day it was practically a gravel stage. So so Phil, either you guys take it, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's a pretty interesting aspect of it.
The running order is very important. Even down by car, it can make a big difference. And it does evolve. Sometimes lines appear in the gravel, so it's not so bad. Like if everyone's sticking with a consistent line, sometimes there's actually a clean line.
Yeah, you can hook it in and then just use that line. Yeah.
Yeah. The problem with that is that means you have to be even more accurate with your driving. Like, if the road's clean, you can use the whole road, but there's a faster line. If the road's not clean, but there's two little rails, two little lines of clean tarmac, you have to hit those lines with both the front and the rear wheels. Otherwise, if you get any one of those wrong, it's going to be a slide, or you're going to lose the front end or something, and it's very tricky. I think by the time we get there, in terms of the junior WRC, because we are like the third group through, in terms of pollution on the road, it's probably all relatively equal. By that point, as much gravel's going to get chucked out as it is chucked out. The running order probably has more significant impact across the top 10, because obviously car number 1 has nothing, and has their own problems, as you mentioned, with no rubber, and no one's swept or.
Yeah, we saw it with Calais Rovanpera in the very first stage. He went off and he retired to Toyota.
Yeah, you can get like green slime or like moisture or dew or something that, if no one's been over before, then that's not clean. So it can have its own deficit, being in the first through the cars. But yeah, certainly by car 10, any mud that's going to be dragged out, there'll be mud on the road, and any mud's a bad situation. So I think for us as the junior WRC, there will be, you have to just sort of accept there's going to be pollution on the road, and over the 8 cars that it is, 1 to 8 probably isn't going to make that huge amount of difference in terms of overall pollution.
Yeah, it's funny. You can almost compare it to what you see with the top esports drivers. Is that the top WRC drivers, they're clipping every inch of space that they can off the road, because there's a lot of stuff in Recce that we spot during Recce. We're like, okay, that we're going to be cutting here and we're going to take a cut there. But it's amazing once you actually get to the actual rally, how much people are cutting and clipping the inside of corners, and you're like, oh, I didn't see that on the Recce. That's interesting that they're actually dropping a wheel in there. And it definitely, you can draw a comparison that in esports you're looking for every 10th, and you're looking to clip every corner and go in as far as you can, and you're definitely doing the same thing in real life. So it's very tricky. Obviously we don't have any sort of gravel crew either, because we're not allowed one, but the top guys like WRC1 and WRC2 crews, they have actual safety gravel note crews that go through the stages before they attack it in the rally car, and they have a set of copied notes of the actual the rally notes that their crew will be using. And basically the gravel crew write in where all the bad parts of mud, dirt, loose surface are on the stages, so that whenever the drivers come there, they know exactly what to expect and they can go through it with confidence. But we don't have that, so we just have to almost wing it, and just like once we come to the corner, make our choice and go with it. But I remember a couple of places in the rally, you would come over like a crest, and on the exit of the crest, there's like mud or a really slippy surface. And that's the type of things that we don't know, and we can only figure out whenever we get there, and we have to just try and do our best. Also, like in Croatia, the surface, there's probably hundreds of different types of tarmac in the rally, and every stage had completely different characteristics, in the flow and the nature of the roads, the width of the road. And yeah, there's some of the surfaces, even in dry, it was like driving on ice. It was so bizarre, but a really good challenge nonetheless.
Yeah, I remember watching a preview on, I think it was Dirtfish's YouTube channel, because they went out and they ran the first stage and they did a talk about it. And just the place they were standing had 6 different types of tarmac, as it were. And heck, some of it probably was even concrete. It all looked very, very different. And that's the kind of thing you just have to pick up as you go along, and then read the road as you were, because yeah, you're driving to notes, but you're also driving to the road that's actually there in front of you, and learning to read those conditions in real time. And I think the best example in Dirt Rally 2 is probably Monte Carlo, where you're trying to find the pieces of grip in the road between the tarmac and the ice and the snow, and just trying to find where the tires are going to give way. Do you brake earlier so that you have the grip, or do you turn in later so that you go past the slippy bit, that kind of thing. But I guess the strategy you guys had then for the rally, at least from what it looked like from the stage times, was start slow and safe and then build up confidence and speed as you go along, because you guys started, I think the first stage you were in 8th place, and then after that it just built up and built up and built up, whereas some guys were on it straight away. I think it was Sami Pyri, the Finnish driver. He was flying. I think he won like 8 of the 16 stages, or 9 or something like that. But then he had that roll halfway through the rally, which really impacted his result. But so I guess for you guys, it was a case of building confidence as you go along, wasn't it, Phil?
Yeah, our strategy was because obviously it's the first rally that John and I have done together properly ever as well. It's the first time John's been in the car properly. It's the first time we've done this rally, as you've already mentioned. So the way we went into it was let's go in, see where we are on the first stage, and then we can sort of iterate from there, like faster, push on more. So it was just building and developing over the weekend and getting faster and faster over the weekend. It was a manageable way of doing it, rather than going in crazy fast on the first stage, and then some people did, putting it off into the trees.
Yeah, it's not a time trial like in the game where you have a million restarts. You've only got one go then.
Yeah, there's no way of going back and trying it again, which meant that we approached it with that manner. Just every stage, just doing, even if it's 1% more, just every stage, just doing a little bit more to get faster. Because that's manageable. You can always take a toe back if you want to, rather than having to take a massive step back if you're like, oh, that's too much. Particularly with the change in grip surfaces. So that was definitely our approach, and I think the stage times reflected that.
Yeah, and even by the end of Friday, you guys were starting to put in like top 3s and top 5s. So the momentum was building, and it was obvious to see that, and the whole field was really competitive. I read a preview article before the rally. It said that I think 7 of the 8 drivers had a chat who were capable of winning, like yourselves included, because the field is super competitive. And then we started to see that competition more as we get into the big day, which was the Saturday, which is where the whole rally was kind of defined, as it were. So I guess with Saturday, because Saturday had some super long stages as well, you guys had the experience of the Friday and the experience of the Recce and the Shakedown and everything else, and now you were starting to push. Is that right, John?
Yeah, definitely. Across the whole rally, I don't think I was ever really like on full max attack. Because it's a long championship, and the rally was long as well. And we didn't want to make any silly mistakes. We wanted to get a good solid start to the championship. But on Saturday, we started off again with the same mindset, but also we were getting more and more confidence. But then the leader sort of went wide in one corner and got a puncher from hitting something. And at that point, I remember in the stage, I knew that I was pretty much level with second place. And I knew then it was a fight for the win. And I just put my foot down from that moment, and we won that stage by 14 seconds over the nearest junior WRC crew. I think that really set us up then for the win.
Did you pass him on the road, the guy with the puncture?
Yes, yeah. So he was running in front of us, and near the start of the stage, I seen him pulled over to the side, as you can do in game too. Sometimes you see competitors pulled off with an issue. So once I passed him, I knew it was a battle for the win, and I remember just going from that point in the stage,
like
and we won it by a big amount. And then the rest of Saturday, it was just trying to keep pushing at a similar level without taking too much risk, and we did manage to extend the lead even more. And then going into Sunday morning, I knew that was going to be the trickiest part of trying to get this rally win, because it's very easy to be too cautious when you've got a lead of 20, 30 seconds, and the first stage on Sunday morning was 25 kilometers. It's easy to lose 1 second per kilometer if you're taking it too easy. So I tried to keep a good pace on the morning loop on Sunday, and we managed to extend our lead even more. We didn't win stages. We were close to winning the first stage, only 1.8 seconds down. But I thought it was really a really good job from us in terms of what we needed to do. Me and Phil were always having a debrief after each stage on what we need to do and what we can improve, or what we need to continue doing. And I think we were quite clear on what our approach was, which was brilliant. And I think even during lockdown last year, I was competing in a lot of Dirt Rally 2.0 club events, and that was even helping me just keep that mindset of, I need to keep, to win a dirt club event, you have to be really consistent but fast, but not necessarily taking every risk, because we know in a video game you can risk every corner, and there's no consequences in terms of being injured or you don't have a big repair bill, but
you just lose stage time.
You're going to ruin your event in Dirt Rally 2.0 if you have a big crash. So I found that really useful during lockdown to do all those events, and I think it paid off then whenever I went back into the real world.
Yeah, I'm starting to notice that as well, because I play a lot of Dirt Rally 2.0 clubs. For those who don't know, I run the official club in the game, which has about 22,000 players. By the way, Greece just started, so go sign up and play. But it's the kind of thing where, and I've noticed it recently, because there's another club I'm competing in, which I'm taking a little bit more seriously with practice and setups and stuff like that. And I'm noticing, and I was talking to the guy that beat me in the last round, that he compared the run that I did on my live stream to his own recording of the run, and I was pulling away all the time until I'd crash, because I was taking more risks, and I was basically treating it like a time trial, where he's treating it more relaxed and making sure you get the car to the end kind of thing. So there is that balance, I guess, to play between ultimate pace and consistency and reliability, because you could be the fastest guy in the world, but if you don't finish, you're not going to get any points, that kind of thing. One thing I wanted to touch on Saturday before we move on to Sunday was one of the stages was cancelled for you guys, because I was looking at the times. Halfway through Saturday, and you guys had just taken the lead, and then we get to, I think it was stage 13, and we get to that stage, and I see the live timing because I'm getting ready to tweet stuff, and it's like, oh no, John and Phil have dropped 5 minutes. What's happened? And then found out afterwards that the stage was cancelled, and I didn't have any info on why. Was it a case of somebody had gone off up ahead and you guys had to go around, or was it just too many fans on the track and they had to close it for safety and that kind of thing?
So what happens in that situation? In our rally cars, we have a tracking device with a screen on it. And so it's also a combined timing device. So that's how they time the stage as well. A GPS with a screen on it. And the organizers can communicate with each crew as well as track them via this screen. And it's got some buttons on it as well, so you can acknowledge stuff and select options and things. And what happens is if there's an incident on the stage that requires that stage to be stopped, either temporarily or permanently, and that could be anything like say spectators, although that wasn't particularly a problem on this one by the sounds of it, because they were banned. But slow moving cars, like if someone's blocking the road. At one point, even they had some bushfires in Turkey one year, and they had to cancel the stage because of that. What they do is they flash up a red screen, like it's normally black when you're in the stage, with some numbers on, like details of how far you've gone.
Yeah, the red really gets your eye, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it flashes red, and it says stage cancelled, and you have to acknowledge it with one of the buttons. So then they know that it's cancelled because you've acknowledged it.
Yeah, so they know you're not going to go flat out through there and then suddenly be at the scene of the accident.
Yeah, the reason is so that as soon as they cancel the stage and it's called red flag. It's very similar as in racing. Basically, it's a red flag. It means the stage is over. You have to proceed with caution, slow down, and be prepared to stop because there might be rescue crews moving around. There might be recovery crews moving around. There might be a crashed car, and just over that crest, there might be a crashed car on its roof. Whether or not, the crew might be out, they might all be fine, but you don't want to go ploughing into it. So as soon as you've acknowledged that red flag, you have to slow right down and carry on through the stage. And that's what happened to us. We were about halfway through the stage, and it's sort of aimed at me. Both crew members can see it, but it's sort of aimed at me because obviously I'm looking down that way with the pace notes, and so I just said to John, it's stage over, stage done, cancelled. We got to slow down. So he knocked it off, knocked the pace off, and cruised through. And what had happened was that there'd been an incident with a car, and they needed to get some recovery stuff and some rescue stuff in to sort them out, and that just meant it wasn't safe to be going through it at high speed.
Yeah. And then for the competition side, I guess what happens there is it just there's no times for that stage, or are you all given like a 5-minute time or something like that just to make it even for everybody?
Everyone gets given this like a nominal time, which is a time that's allocated by the organisers, and they tend to try and do that to make sure that nobody gains or loses out of it. And each crew is allocated a time so it's not like a blanket thing necessarily, although often crews will get the same time, but they look at each crew and go, what we're going to give them, what we're going to give them, what we're going to give them. And it's not arbitrary. Like I say, they try not to affect the results with it. It's just to give someone a fair time to do it. With the JWRC, they gave us all the same time because we were all affected. And so it didn't affect the results at all.
Yeah, because depending on when the red flag happens, some guys have already gone through the stage and they already have a time. But I guess this nominal time then, however it's calculated, is like a prediction of what your pace would have been if you were going through.
There's a number of tools that it's the clerk of the course, is the chief organizer. It's his or her responsibility to allocate those times because it's such a critical piece of information. And there's a number of tools at their disposal to decide how to do that, and there's different ways they're allowed to do it. Sometimes they allocate it as in your nearest competitor that went through clean. They'll just give, so if you're in a class, they'll give the last person's time that went through clean. Everyone gets that time because then it doesn't penalize anyone that went super fast quickly earlier on, because that's not fair. But sometimes if you've done a previous run through the stage, like it's a loop of two, they'll give you your time from the previous stage. If you did it that time, then you'll do it this time. And there's different ways. Different clerk of the courses to deal with it different ways, and it depends on different circumstances. For example, if you had a puncture on your first run through, it might not be fair to give you the time with the puncture on it, because that would mean you get penalised twice. But it's generally decided by the organiser to make sure that everyone gets a relatively fair time for that stage to ensure no championships are won or lost on an incident.
Yeah, because it's all about making sure that everything is fair in that situation. And I guess I guess now then going on from that, you guys, that was an absolutely crazy, super busy Saturday with your 8 stages, your very long ones, the red flag, the change of the lead in the rally and all that. Sunday then comes along, and I guess, I mean, there's still a lot of pressure on you guys because you're leading, but then there's also, because there's only 4 stages and you've got the power stage at the finish and all that it's a little bit calmer. I guess it's a case, John, of bring it home. We've got a 30-second lead, or 15, and then I think it became a 30-second lead. And one of the stages was cancelled as well, which really helped make sure that none of the others could catch you on that stage in particular. Is it a case of, okay, I've been driving at, let's say, 95% pace to get the lead of the rally. Do you pull that back, or is it a case of you got to keep pushing to a degree, because if you let yourself slow down too much, your mind will wander, or you'll overthink a corner too much and then you'll just go off anyway? Is it that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. You know, going into Sunday morning, we had like a 22-second lead, which was not enough to relax. So I had to still push really hard through the first 2 stages of Sunday. And we did extend our lead to over up to like 38 seconds going into the last 2 stages. So I think I'd done a good job on the morning stages. I pushed still relatively hard and managed to extend the lead, which was amazing. And then, yeah, like you said, the second to last stage got cancelled, which made our job a lot easier. Meant we could relax a little bit. But going into that last power stage with 38-second lead, okay, we knew it was more than enough to relax and just get through the stage with a pretty easy pace without taking too many risks. But yeah, for sure, it's easier said than done. Whenever you back off, you don't load the tire the same way that you would be if you were pushing. So you're not loading the car and you're not getting the same level of grip from the tire. So it's very, very difficult. And it was a really tricky stage, that power stage. You know, it was very narrow, bumpy, but fast in places.
We saw the main WRC class. There was drama right at the end of that because they were pushing it so hard and making mistakes too.
Yeah, it was a very tough stage, just very narrow and dirty and lots of cuts and mud, and yeah, it was if you had to pick a stage that you didn't want, that would be it. But we got through, no issues, took it pretty carefully, but I did find myself having little silly, you know, almost moments, but they weren't moments, but they were sort of things where you're just like, oh, please stop before this corner.
Yeah, I know those in the game. It's like you go through a corner just a little bit too fast or a little bit too slow, and you're holding the wheel and just goes, no, that kind of thing where it's not an accident, but you know, if you pushed it a little bit further, it would have been. Yeah,
and then when we got to the end of the stage, obviously we'd done enough. We knew we'd won. But then we actually noticed that we had a slow puncher on the last stage. I don't know if it would have affected us that much, but for sure some performance would have been lost because the tire was going down.
Yeah, you hit one thing and that's the tire gone.
Yeah, we were lucky it wasn't a long stage, because if it was like a 25k stage, you know, we might have lost the rally with that. So you have to have a bit of luck in rallying too, and I think it was with us this weekend.
Yeah, you guys did absolutely fantastic. And I saw when I was sharing the results in real time and stuff like that, the excitement was building. It was like, oh, these guys, they might actually do it, that kind of thing. And people were coming in the replies and going, oh, go on, John and Phil, just go. And then we put it out, and then, you know, you put out your tweets of emotions like, oh my God, we did it, and find a victory gif and of a guy just going, yes, and and all sorts, and just making it like this big, you know, like explosion of happiness and excitement and stuff like that. And obviously you guys would have had that then from winning the rally on site. The funny thing, and it brings up a story that we were kind of talking about on Twitter after the rally, was that I saw the winning photos, and you've got the trophy there, and first the trophy's cool. The trophy's pretty cool, it's pretty unique, and it's got some historic significance to Croatia, and it's pretty awesome. But my first thought was, that trophy is huge. How the hell are they going to get that home?
It was a bit of a challenge, that's for sure. It definitely was.
Yeah, because Phil, you tweeted on, I think it was Monday, or maybe it was Tuesday morning, I can't remember which, but you tweeted to Croatia Airlines. It was like, how do we bring this home?
Yeah, well, it was a question that was on our mind as soon as we got given it. As soon as we got off the podium, obviously you're buzzing and you're like, this is amazing, this is absolutely awesome. But then we had to try and fit it in more than anything, we had to try and fit it in the back of the rally car, because people probably don't realize that after the podium, we had a 2-hour drive back to Zagreb for the final park ferme, which is another part maybe that isn't really represented on the gaming side of things, where you have to park your car in for after event checks and
scrutineering,
like scrutineering, and so we still had a 2-hour drive back from the finish podium, and we were looking at these trophies going, rally cars are designed not for transporting luggage, really.
They're really packed with all the equipment and the roll cage and everything.
Going fast. So we managed to, well, actually John managed to fit them in the back somehow with supreme Tetris skills. But it was good. But then, getting home, I just thought it was really funny that they give you these big international events and they give you these fantastic but huge trophies. So yeah, I tweeted Croatia Airlines and we had a bit of fun with them on how we were going to get it home. We got it home in the end. They were very good to us. We ended up putting them in the wardrobe that the cabin crew store their uniforms in the end, and it was all fine. And then,
I saw John's video about it. Big ups to Croatia Airlines for being so great. It reminds me of something that I worked on before I joined Codemasters. Before this, I worked at Konami. I worked on trading card games in particular, that kind of thing. And we had these big tournaments where you could win a giant card that was essentially the size of a table. So you imagine something that's 1 meter, that's like 1 meter wide by 1.5 meters tall, which is, this is like playing card that's blown up to the size as big of a person. And every time we used to share those at those events and they would win those cards, the first thought is always with them is like, how the hell am I going to get this home? This thing is bigger than me. And normally I think in the end we just ship them, but it is an interesting aspect and it's a nice problem to have, because you guys have won the rally, which is, the most important thing. And now you've got this trophy, which is pretty awesome. It's a lovely looking trophy. I like the quality of wood finish on it in particular. It's but it's a nice problem to have, but it's still a problem to have at the end of the day.
I think it's probably interesting also to bring out at this point the sheer amount of stuff that we do have to transport to and from rallies, which people might not be aware of. So we take a lot of stuff to these events. Obviously the team take a lot of stuff. They take truckloads of equipment and spares and things, but as a crew, I mean, John and I I take 4 A4 size notepads that are about that thick, which is kilos worth of weight. We've got a race suit, we've got 3 or 4 sets of fireproof underwear, helmet, head and neck support devices. We've got obviously clothes for 10 days because we're out in Croatia for 10 days. Nut gun, because we provide our own nut gun. Supplements and hydration stuff that we take. I have to take all sorts of stationary and equipment. We take rally communication, like trip meters, which are GPS locators with us. So there's a lot of stuff that goes with us on and off these planes, and it becomes its own little separate logistical challenge.
Yeah.
And like you say, it's a nice problem to have in terms of massive trophies. It always looks good and it feels good to have them, but it is a funny and potentially unique aspect of motorsport or sport in general that you have to sort of think about. And you don't necessarily think about it till someone gives it to you, and then you think, oh, what am I going to do with this?
Well, hopefully you guys will, not that I'm wishing problems upon you guys, but hopefully that's a problem you guys will have more of in the future, like how to bring home more trophies. And that leads us nicely onto what's coming up next. So I believe the next rally is in Portugal, and that's a gravel rally. And I know you guys did a tarmac test before this. You did it over in Wales. Are you guys going to do a gravel test as well, John?
Yeah, Phil is already trying to organize a gravel test for us with the same car that we done the tarmac test in before Croatia. So yeah, we want to try and do a brief gravel test once again. Just get familiar with driving on a loose surface with a front wheel drive car, and we're hoping that we can have a good feeling again. In Portugal, the roads are quite rough. They're quite sandy, but also there's big rocks that you have to drive over. So you just have to try and get through the stages without having too many issues. And it's a bit more of a endurance style event, but of course you have to go as fast as you can too. So it's always just trying to balance how much risk you put on damaging the car versus how fast you go. So I'm looking forward to it. I've been to Portugal Rally before, and Phil's been there too. We know our way around Porto, where the rally is based, the HQ and the service park. Some of the stages we've done before. So yeah, we have a bit of an idea of what to expect, and hopefully we can do a good job again.
Yeah, that sounds good. I was going to ask that, but you guys have already answered that. Yeah, you guys have done this before. So I guess, or I hope, the Recce isn't going to be as crazy as it was in Croatia. I mean, because I presume, Phil, you've probably got notes from some of the stages, if they're the same as previous years, that you can use as kind of a base to learn off of. Is that right?
So, John, we haven't got any notes from John's new system specifically, or John's system for these stages, but just the Recce is always a tough Recce in Portugal, because we're going straight to a gravel, and using road cars in gravel brings its own.
They're not built for it.
Yeah, they are challenging roads on their own, and it will be a long Recce, but in terms of the fact we've already been there makes it a lot easier, because you've orientated yourself, you know where everything is, you sort of know how long places are, how long it will take you to get from and to places, and it's a genuinely more manageable situation in terms of the Recce being more simple. But I still think I stand by the fact that Recce is one of the more challenging elements of the whole rally week, and we're going to have to go into it with the mindset that it is going to be a challenge, however much we know the rally. So we still got to focus on doing a good job on the Recce itself.
And going into the rest of the season as well, John, I guess the plan for now is not necessarily to think about the championship, but more to just focus on winning maybe the next rally, the next two rallies, and then after that, you play the mind games with, okay, I'm X points ahead or X points behind, and this is what I need to do. Is that right? You're just taking each event as it goes?
I think there's definitely an element of taking each rally as it comes, but I am conscious that these championships are won by being consistent. So I want to just get as many points as I can on each rally, whatever that may be. If it's a second place with a couple of stage win points, that would be good. If it's a victory, again, fantastic. But you have to see how you're doing on the rally and just make decisions based on what you feel is best for the championship. And that's obviously what my eyes are on now is the championship. We've made a good start to the year. But there's a long way to go. There's many good drivers in the championship. And if I want to win the championship, I'm going to have to keep improving, keep trying to find elements that I can get better at, and work really hard.
Yeah.
And just jumping in, there's building on what John has just said, there's a lot of different ways to win this championship, because the point system is based not only on overall position, but also on stage wins. And so you've got to focus on the different ways you can accrue those points. But the real honest fact is you don't get any points if your car's on the back of a truck. So you have to sort of look at the whole season and balance out where you're making the points and try and maximize that.
Yeah, depending on the stage, it could be better to settle for a second place or a third place rather than pushing for the record and potentially binning the car. It kind of puts one of your competitors in, I think it's Sami Pyre, puts it into context, because in Croatia, I think he won 9 stages. He got like 9 points out. There was 20 stages in the rally, 2 were cancelled, but that's like 10 points right there, which is massive. But as we all know, he was flying on Friday, and then he was literally flying because he went over a jump and he got a bad landing, and then he rolled the car, and guys at M Sport Poland did a great job. They repaired it at the next service, and he was able to bring it home and get back on pace. But yeah, I guess it is that interesting challenge and interesting balance of, I need to go fast, but I also need to bring in the points, which is a challenge. And it's a challenge we're all going to look forward to seeing you guys do over the future. But it has been quite an amazing event, not only for you guys, but for all of us here at Codemasters as well, just watching you and following you along and sharing updates and getting updates from Adam, who did great stuff on John's socials and provided me with updates as well, which was all fantastic. It was a good team effort. And in closing, I just want to wish you guys the best of luck for Portugal and the season ahead. I know you guys obviously work super hard on this. John was saying in an interview in Croatia that he was up until 3 a.m. on the notes, which was pretty wild. I've done competitive events before, nothing like this, of course. I've done competitive events in like games and stuff like that, and the thought of even preparing till 3 a.m. is wild, because it must be like, I need to balance the work with the sleep, and it's like, do you just run on adrenaline and that kind of thing?
Yeah, obviously I didn't want to stay up that late to do the pace notes, but I think that's something that we're going to look at improving in Portugal, is just the schedule on doing refinements for the pace notes, because it was a hectic rally week and we did run out of time for the Saturday notes, which, you know, after Friday stages, that's when I had to stay up late, was Friday night, to get my refinements done for Saturday stages. And yeah, in my eyes, it was worth staying up late to make sure I was happy with the notes, because obviously it means that you can have a faster but safer run on the stages. So that's why I did it. But yeah, something to improve on for the next events is to try and prevent such late nights.
Yeah, well, I'm sure with all the hard work and preparation that goes through everything, like even from, let's say tomorrow, you guys are already doing research on the next rally, that kind of thing, and then up to the Recce and the Shakedown, and then competition itself. I just want to wish you guys the best of luck. But that is all the time we have today. It's been great chatting to you guys. It's been absolutely fantastic to have you guys here and to share a little bit of insight into the real world of rally for our virtual rally fans, and even for myself, because I don't have that professional experience. I can kind of go fast in the game, but you put me in real life, I'll no hope, absolutely no hope at all. But that's all I've got. That's all we've got time for today. And if you want to follow for more updates, John and Phil are obviously on social media here, there, and everywhere. They're easy to find, as am I. If you want to follow the @DiRT Game socials, where we'll be sharing all of the updates from the rally and from the rallies and Junior WRC as we go forward, and share, and of course, updates on Dirt Rally 2.0 and Dirt 5 and all the lovely virtual stuff as well. But that's all for today. Farewell, everybody. Have a good week.